everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Social Justice. Today, I'm joined by the infamous Mr. Baldev Mutta, and we're going to be talking about generational trauma. So, Uncle, today I want to talk to you about one or two particular things that I've noticed. So, I'm a Canadian-born individual. I was raised here my entire life, and there's a couple of characteristics that I've noticed about individuals who have come from India. So the first being, they've been raised to have, in my mind, a self-limiting belief, or say a nature where they don't speak up if they're told no and they would like to go ahead and do something with their lives. And the other aspect is when individuals come from nothing and they unintentionally spoil their kids. So when they spoil their kids, they're grown up with a certain standard of living, not knowing, hey, you have to work for something in order to make something of yourself. And so what I wanted to do is essentially get your thoughts on that, and just to see, hey, is this something that you've experienced? I know that we do have a generation gap ourselves, but I'd love to get your insights and thoughts on this.
Okay, so a couple of things that we need to kind of look into making an assessment of how successive generations kind of look at a single issue. So today we're going to talk about looking at the issue of child rearing, child development, upbringing of children from a perspective of generations.
Yeah.
How did previous generations raise children? And what is the impact of colonization or modernity or the current Western influence on child rearing in Canada? So in the context of Canada. So if we look at it from, for example, Western thought processes. So Western thought processes are predominantly premised on this whole notion that an individual holds a supreme authority given in a structure. So family as an entity does not have authority over the individual. In fact, in Western civilization, the individual has the authority over the family. So the individual is given enough authority to decide what that individual wants. Does the individual want a particular career? Does the individual want to go into a business or into a career, or wants to travel, or wants to stay within the family, or wants to go outside of the family? That is where the push and pull happens. One of the challenges of an ancient civilization like the South Asian civilization is that we are a community that has inherited at least minimum 10,000 years worth of traditions. And those traditions, now that we now know that many of those traditions are embedded, at least part of that generational issues are embedded in our DNA. Whether those were traumas, whether those were good entities, whether those were rituals, traditions, or whatever they were, we were able to kind of rely on those traditions, rituals to kind of successively move. When we come here, we face an additional trauma of being uprooted from the place where we grew, came to a new place, and so we are not looking at this as a trauma. But in fact, it is a trauma. So we lose our family, we lose our land where we were born, we lose our kinship, we lose our religion, we lose every single entity of our being when we migrate. So here, the parents intrinsically try to protect us by saying, you need to speak Punjabi, you need to go to university, and they become directed towards their children. In fact, to an extent that the children think that our parents are very controlling and demanding. When the parents look at it telling their children to go to university as a caring attitude, the child looks at from a point of view that the parents are controlling us, they are telling us what to do. I'm not going to do it because that is the natural reflex of a teenager, is to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Don't boss me around.
Yeah.
Now, this push and pull is being reinforced in a Western civilization by saying to this individual who happens to be a child that you have the right to decide what you want.
Yes.
So basically, conflict is encouraged in Western civilization, whereas conflict is minimized in the Eastern civilizations. So the generations, the reason why we survived colonizations, oppressions, invasions, calamities, famines, and all of these things is because we stuck together. It was a family, the village, the clan, the tribe, the community, the country as a whole, all coming together to overcome whatever hardship it is. In the Western civilization, this is the first time in the history of humanity where they have said, no. This is not how we're going to function. The individual needs to survive. So that's why you have seen that in the Western kind of domains of thought, they have Rambos, they have Terminators, that one individual will be a super person trying to overcome and capture everything that there is to capture. So our society kind of gets into this push and pull and goes through this emotional turmoil where they relive the trauma of their parental generations, where they say, okay, we were uprooted in 1947. We have been uprooted when we came to Canada. And now we are again trying to establish. But look what our forefathers did. When they were uprooted from 1947, they worked hard. So now we are telling you the same thing. We have been uprooted. We came to Canada. This is a land where you can make it. So go to university, do this and work hard. But because we are in a different country, the same set of circumstances don't hold. So as a result, we are now desperately trying to do two things at the same time. We want to raise our children in our own image, and at the same time, we want to increase our wealth and economic status. But the two don't go hand in hand, because if you are working towards to uplift your own self through the economic development, making more money, you have no time for your children.
Yeah.
And if you have no time for your children, the children are not going to listen to you. And as a result, I think if we look at it successively, economically, the South Asian community is quite well off. Spiritually, morally, socially, and in terms of spiritual aspect of our community, we are becoming weaker. We are becoming disenfranchised. We are being assimilated into a psyche whereby it is the individual that becomes supreme. So we are in fact dichotomized between our collective consciousness and our individual consciousness. And that's, I think, our community is struggling at this time to make sense that why are our young people gravitate towards gangs, towards drug use, towards this lifestyle of being a gangster on the one hand. On the other hand, we are saying that the parents of these same youngsters are millionaires. So how can a child of a millionaire gravitate to be a drug dealer? How? Like, where does this come from? This comes from the dichotomized kind of way of oppression that is perpetuated on us. That's what I think what is happening in our culture.
Okay, that's actually a really interesting thought. It's interesting that you say, it's two different extremes, right? Because there's that whole push-pull dynamic, and I absolutely agree. Like I was raised to think, hey, I could either be an engineer, a doctor, or an accountant. And, of course, by default, I became an accountant. Now, what I chose to do with that, it was very different. I needed to have a lot of the conversations with my parents, with my elders, to make them understand I wasn't going to be a traditional accountant. I was going to pretty much pave my own path. And to be honest, when I was younger, just as you say, I didn't understand why my parents kept saying, breathe through this, breathe through that, breathe through this, stay in this lane, make sure you don't get into drugs, you're going to this school, you're going to have this job. But now, as I grow older, as I see, individuals going through different paths of life, I understand why they did what they did. I can't say that for the younger generation, and I think it puts me in a really interesting position where for my nieces and nephews, I can kind of paint it in both a westernized way as well as an easternized way to say, hey, this is why your parents may say what they do, and this is why I, for one, am that person who will encourage you to always go your own way. I will never say you should follow ABC in your life. You should do what makes you happy at the end of the day. But of course, there has to be some sort of financial benefit or financial reap that you have in the end. But it's really interesting to see all your thoughts on how you say that. And so one thing I wanted to ask you is, from your perspective, you have kids and your kids have kids. So do you ever catch yourself with that next generation stopping them from it? Would you ever, I guess, diverge from what their parents say versus what you would say to your own grandkids? Do you ever find yourself doing that?
So there are a couple of things that we need to kind of make sense. And one of the things which I struggled for a long time is, what is happiness? So our community, unfortunately, links happiness with accumulation of wealth. The more wealthier you are, we somehow equate it with being that we will automatically become happy. Not so. The more wealth you try to accumulate, the more business expansion you do, you are better uplifting your career, the more stressful the life becomes. People don't realize it. They think that if I have a $2 million business every year, that somehow that will make me happy. No, it brings more stress.
And there's no dollar amount that will make
exactly.
you happy.
So that's one bigger issue that we haven't. And the other aspect that we haven't as a community dealt with it is, what is quality of life? So when children ask us, why are you working, Dad? Why are you working 60, 70 hours a week? We have no answer. The only answer we can say is, we want to make sure that our house is free so that we can give it to you. They say, but we don't want, Dad. We want you to enjoy. We don't want you to work for me. I can work on my own. But this discussion between the children and the parents is very painful for the parents to listen, because they think that the children are not grateful. That we're going to leave them a fully paid off house, a business, a well-established this or that. And the children are saying, no, Dad, stop working 60, 70 hours. We don't want you to do that. We want you to enjoy life. But for us, the enjoyment is making money, because that's what we equated.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the oppression and the colonization of the mind takes place, because we are bombarded with this idea that you go to Canada or in any Western country, you can make lots of money, and with money, you can purchase a lot of things which will then make you happy. And unfortunately, life dictates that that's not true. So that's one bigger issue. The second thing is, if we haven't thought about the spirituality, that what makes me happy, what is my purpose of my life, then the children are on two different lengths. The child thinks differently and the parents think differently, and there is often a clash. And this clash is the source of lot of unhappiness in the South Asian culture. Because the parents are saying, ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਹੀ ਬੱਚੇ ਲਈ ਕੀਤਾ, ਇਹ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਵੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਫਿਕਰ ਕਰਦਾ. Right? And the child is saying, Dad, I keep telling you, stop working. You have paid off house, you don't need to work. I'm just staying here, it's okay. We're going to take care of it. But the parents are unable to comprehend, what will I do? What will be my purpose of life if I'm not working 60, 70 hours? What will I do?
Exactly.
And a panic takes over in the older generation. And I think that is where we need to kind of reflect one more time again. Okay, so if for 200 years the British ruled India, for 200 years, what is the effect of that 200 years of rule on the Indian psyche?
Yeah.
So have we learned well from the British to discriminate against people with darker skin? Are we so bombarded that if we speak English in India, we are better than those who cannot speak English? Are we? I think that tells us, and there has been a plethora of research in India, that how come the judicial system in India, for example, the judges, the lawyers speak in English, and the person about whom this whole discussion is taking place in the judicial system doesn't understand a damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means we are still, even though the British have left, we are still being colonized by the thought processes and by the psyche that they have given us, and we haven't been able to decolonize it. Yeah. And we bring that here in Canada as well. Yeah. And then we become very much deeply ingrained in this push and pull situation, whether it's in our social, in our family, in our political, in our cultural, in our religious. We are constantly struggling between what is good for me versus what is good for society or the family as a whole. Yeah. And I think this is where the children who are successively born in the same family go through these kind of pushes and pulls successively. Yeah. Where grandparents not only cannot relate to their own children, but definitely they cannot relate to the grandchildren. Yeah. Because that's another generation which is at odds with the 3 generational families in our household. Yeah. And I think we haven't done enough work, we haven't done enough research as to why is there a disconnect between a grandfather, a father, yeah, and a child. Like, what is that disconnect? Yeah. We haven't been able to do. I think this has to do with the fact that we are so scared of making an assessment as to what are the discords that are happening in our family dynamics.
Yeah. There's also a factor of what will someone else think of me if I don't follow what the societal norm is, right? So for somebody who was born and raised in India, they're born under all of these circumstances, all this upbringing, all this knowledge that's been shared with them from generations before. So if we take, a minute and stop to listen to our children, to those younger than us, to say, hey, maybe I don't need to work these 60, 70 hours. Maybe I don't need this Escalade, this Hummer, this, $4 million home. Maybe I need to stop, and maybe I need to just focus on myself. And listen to somebody else, listen to the younger generation. They worry that, number one, am I going to be able to keep up with everyone else? And number two, what is my brother or what is my sister or what is XYZ person going to say about me? And I think that's what causes that anxiety, and they don't know how to get away from that. I have these conversations with my dad all the time, and he'll always say, breathe, I don't know what to tell you, breathe, मैं just आए हैगा. It's hard, and the exact words he uses, he's like, it's a generation thing. He's like, you have the ability to say that. I'm like, but so do you, Dad. You can say no.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the challenging aspects of this whole thing is, where does our personal prestige come from? Yeah. My daughter or my son is this. But what if this is not accepted by the bigger community,
Exactly.
then what?
And there's also, this person's son is a doctor. Oh, wait, I have to announce that my son has a master's.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that is what is the bigger problem, is that on the one hand, we are in the Western society. We want everybody to be an individual, but our society has this own nuances where it only selectively picks up what is good for them. So on the one hand, we want the same wedding rituals what are back home.
Yes.
At the same time, we are in Canada, but there has to be some other issues that we want.
Of course.
Right? And I think that's why our couples are having so much difficulty, one, finding compatibility, because the acculturation process or the maturation process of individuals can be very different. Two people can be born in Canada, raised in Canada, become career oriented, very professional oriented, and yet one's mindset can be more traditional, others' mindset can be more Western. So now they are both born and raised in Canada, except they are no longer compatible.
Yeah. So they look good on paper, but not in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's where I think and one of the things which it is that we are a very tradition oriented culture. Anything new frightens us.
Yeah.
Because we are good within our own entities. And I think that's why if you see a lot of traditional communities like the Chinese community, the Indian community, the Greek community, the African community, the Middle Eastern community, they all stick together.
They do. Yeah.
Right? So majority of their friends are within their own circles.
Yeah.
They are not from the outside community. Just once in a while, other people come, neighbors come, but that's only once in a while.
Yeah.
But the deeper connections are within their own community and within their families and networks and interactions, right? Yeah. So I think that is why this is a little bit different to understand that the whole generational issue between successive generation, the fact that we are away from our country of origin, we are in a different land, struggling to make ourselves known, and yet we are finding it so difficult because we haven't had the opportunity to have a discourse and a dialogue and have some of these ironed out, some of these challenges.
Yeah. No. I absolutely agree with you. Just having, I think it's just once folks understand that, hey, they're, especially for in my instance anyway, I find for generations before me, I try really hard to have all these conversations with all my aunts and uncles, my masis, my chachis, everyone, and I try to challenge them and poke a little, like, especially when it comes to my masis and my puas, and the conversations are always around, hey, you can go back to school. Hey, you can do something outside of the kitchen. And sometimes the pushback is, nahi papa, kitchen de vich kaam karna. And I'm like, but why? You can do something else. Or sometimes they'll say, hey, I have a son and a daughter, and the son's gonna go to England to study. And I'm like, well, what about the daughter? Oh, no, she's gonna go to college here. And I'm like, but she has the same level of knowledge. In fact, she might even be smarter. So why not give her the opportunity? And I really push hard to have those conversations, and sometimes it's met with a complete wall, and other times they're like, yeah, but breathe, kuri kalli hogi, and I'm like, no, she won't be. There's other folks out there. There's a support system. So yeah.
So one of the things that we have to kind of remember in this generational discussions is the fact that Indian subcontinent is one of those continents where we have not been able to dismantle the wrongs done to women as a gender. We have not. Yeah. We have not been able to outlaw dowry. It's in the Indian constitution, it's banned. You're not supposed to do it, but everybody does it. Even the elected officials participate lavishly, and everybody knows, right? So that's happened. We have not been able to outlaw the discrimination because you are born an untouchable,
Yeah.
right? So if you are a Dalit in India, you can be discriminated.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at those kind of oppressions which continue to this age, right now, I mean, in 2024, I mean, if this happens, this means that we have a lot of work to do in terms of deconstructing these evils that we have, and we have hold on to this. Now, isn't it very interesting that we brag about that within Sikhism there is no caste?
Exactly.
But what happens at the time of marriage?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, the young person is shocked to learn that the person that they want to introduce to their parents is from a, like they never, both of them didn't even talk about the caste. They talked about everything else. They didn't talk about the caste. But the parents, the first thing they're going to ask, ਮੁੰਡਾ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਜਾਤ ਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਕੁੜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਜਾਤ ਦੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਬਿਲੋਂਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਤੋਂ ਆ ਸਿੱਖ ਆ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਰ ਉਹ ਹੈ and then both the boy and the girl are kind of shocked ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ and maybe in a whole life this wasn't an issue in their family but at the time of marriage it became an issue. And I think those are some of the deconstructions that we have to do in our culture, because this is where the trauma continues successively, where women have to give up, boys have to give up, then they live together, and then their marriage doesn't work, and then it falls apart. And I think that kind of trauma, and if we had more time, we can perhaps dissect it a little more, how this generational trauma kind of carries over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because now you're holding on to a grudge that, okay, I had to give up this person because that person happened to be from different caste.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's approached from a different angle where they say, you know, ਇਹ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਨੇ ਗੋਰੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਆਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ
yes
ਆਪਾਂ ਆ ਜਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਨਾ
exactly yeah I mean interracial marriages, intercultural marriages, intercaste marriages, interreligious marriages, all these are bringing profound courses of feelings and within the communities, but we haven't had the time to deconstruct it in Canada yet as to okay, how are we going to handle these kind of issues? Right?
Exactly. It's interesting speaking about dowry. So I know somebody who got married, Sikh and West Indian, and the way the wedding worked out was the girl was West Indian. Her family didn't give any money in terms of contribute for the actual wedding reception itself, for like the wedding. And that got out in the family. And the amount of noise it created because there was an expectation that the female's family should have given, you know, this much money or paid for at least half of it. And this wedding happened 2-3 years ago, and there's still talks about it. There's still conversation. But I mean, it's okay between the bride and the groom's family, right? They're totally fine with it, but the rest of the community has a problem with it.
Yes. So I think many times it is these kind of smaller things that result in a bigger kind of conflict within the families as well. It results a bigger trauma for other family members as well. So if an older brother's daughter got married interracially, the younger brother's daughter will face enormous amount of pressure to make sure that this thing doesn't happen there. That is another enormous amount of pressure. Right? So I think that we need to kind of really understand as to how pressures are being put on the successive generations in Canada. Like what kind of pressures are they dealing? So they're dealing with academic pressures at school, academic pressures at either college or the university. They are dealing with the pressures of getting a job or starting a business, whatever they want to do. So those are pressures which our parents don't even understand. They say, what's stress?
Yeah.
Like, there is no stress. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I'm not stressed. And in fact, they are stressed,
Yeah.
but they don't want to admit that they are under stress. Okay. And then we have these multiple issues within our own kind of mindset. For example, when and how do we go to seek help for our illnesses? Whether these are physical illnesses, mental illnesses, or whatever other illnesses there might be, right? How do we handle those part? And then the other part associated with this whole thing is, how do we handle when medication is prescribed by a doctor? I become my own kind of a
Yes.
doctor by deciding how much I'm going to take and when I'm going to take.
Yes.
And if the doctor says finish these 30 capsules, I'm going to decide, no, I'm good by taking 15. I'm
Exactly.
cured, and therefore I'm not going to take the other 15 because the doctors always prescribe too many.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think, and where does this mindset come from? It comes from back home where we had scarcity.
Yeah.
So we just preserved everything. So we preserved medication, we preserved everything there is to preserve, right? But I think that's where we need to kind of really reflect on, are we actually damaging ourselves?
Yeah.
Is this a part of our psyche that is hurting us, that creates a behavior in our women and in our men who are from the older generation, that they are behaving in a way which is actually harmful to not only themselves but also to the children? And maybe this is where we need to have some more discussion on it in the next successive talks, as to why do our parents behave in a certain way towards academic achievement, towards illnesses, towards savings, towards investment, taking care of finances, finding a suitable partner, and all of these issues which make a family, which we need to be able to make sense of it. I think all of these are avenues where we need to have a lot more discussions on.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with you. All right, so Uncle, I want to say thank you so much for all the enlightening discussion. I learned so much from you today.
Thank you.
And until next time, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today.
Thank you. Okay, so